What's going on, y'all? Today, I want to talk about how to have more conviction when you speak, how to sound more convicted, and how to be more convicted. So, one of the first things that we need to do away with is that sounding more convicted is a result of your vocal function. That can help, but that's not going to do it by itself. In other words, if I speak louder, or if I speak more quietly, or if I use a different type of resonance in my sound, right, going there between lots of head and lots of chest resonance, that doesn't necessarily make me sound more convicted. So, sounding convicted comes ultimately down to your ability to be aligned in what you are saying and aligned with what you are saying. And the reason that this is so important is because ultimately the person or the audience that we want to sound convicted to is a human being. It's not AI. It's a living, breathing organism that is complicated and beautiful and has its own is its their own mess of contradictions, just like we are. And the reason that your conviction is not landing or is not at a sufficient enough level to do what you are wanting it to do is because there is probably some incongruence within you. So think about this. There are three different types of resonances as I think about it. The first is the resonance of your voice. That's what I was just demonstrating. And this comes down to coordination, your ability to make sure that your voice, whenever you use it, has this certain quality or this certain effect that's a result of the coordination of the small muscles inside of your face and of your throat. This is how we essentially shape the sound that comes from our vocal folds. Then there's another type of resonance, which is that of your idea. So, what is an idea? It's something that comes from our brain, and then we match it with our mouth, and then it goes out into the world. And if an idea, as we say, has resonance, well, what that means is that it's landing with your audience. So, an idea that has resonance also has relevance. So, if we can have this relevant idea, then that's going to resonate as well. But the way that these two things, let's suppose that you have both this coordinated resonant voice and this resonant relevant idea, the way that this lands most impactfully in the ears of your listeners is when you yourself, the speaker, when you have resonance. And what is resonance really? Resonance is just two separate things coming together. In that first example, it's your voice, your vibrator, your vocal folds, and your resonator, the tube that shapes the sound. In the second idea, the two things that are coming together are the idea and your words or your voice. And in this third type of resonance, the two things that are coming together are the actions of you, the person, and their alignment with those first two resonances. So once you are aligned in that way, then you're resonating at what I call in my coaching and my work, and just for myself in my own life, the frequency of truth. And it's speaking at this frequency of truth that is going to give you the conviction that you are looking for. And in order to get there, we can't just say sound more convicted because that's going to land us in that same trap that I was exploring a few minutes ago, which is just you're going to sound louder. You might be using more chest, more head, more whatever. You're treating this symptom, which is how your voice sounds or is coordinated. In order to really resonate at the frequency of truth, we have to look at a couple of other things. And this is what I coach in my framework, the seven skills of tonality, where resonance, that coordination aspect of it, it is the first skill because people do want to know, hey, how can I have a deeper, more commanding voice without sounding like I'm trying too hard? They want to know how to eliminate nasality. They want to speak in a way that sounds more beautiful. But that's one of seven skills. The other skills, articulation, imagination, mindset, intention, subtext, and stakes, when you start to dig into those, that's where you really uncover the qualities that create that conviction that we find at the frequency of truth. So One of the big ones, I mentioned this in the way to achieve relevance in an idea, comes from the skill of intention, where the idea is to be speak only so that others can win, not so that you can be validated. Because the minute that you start speaking so that you are validated, there's an energy shift in your being, in your alignment, and that's going to throw up red flags in the ears of whoever you're listening to. You can have the same vocal coordination, you can have the same phrasing of an idea, but there's something about it that's going to be off. But the minute that you stop being of self and you start being of service, that's when your energy there is going to change, and it's going to change your frequency so that you are landing or resonating differently in the ears and in the hearts and the minds of your listeners. So, one of the simplest ways to think about this is that in order to be resonating at the frequency of truth when you speak is for you to be speaking from direct lived experience, so that this is not a person who is talking about theory, but it's talking about something that they have actually done, or what they're saying is wisdom from what they have actually done. That is what is going to make your ideas land more powerfully, and it is going to allow you to have a more convicted sound because you are more convicted. One way that I like to talk about this comes from the skill of mindset in the seven skills of tonality. And the way that I describe this is that your mindset is essentially a transcription of the dialogue that's running in your brain at any given time. So if you are, for example, a cold caller, or if you are a founder and you're looking for an investment, and whenever you are talking, you're just thinking, I'm not the right person for this. I'm wasting these people's time. Why would they like me, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to change your energy and how you show up. Again, even if your coordination and your phrasing of your ideas are the same or are equal to a person who is showing up saying, this is going to be something that you thank me for in the future. This is so good for you. Let me show you why. That person is speaking of service, not of self. And you can be of self and still be scared. You can be scared and still be of service, but the difference comes in whether or not you are going to let that fear dictate how you show up. That then is just a virtue, and that's not part of the seven skills of tonality, though I guess it is implicit in there, and that's the virtue of courage. So when you can start speaking in this way, in this aligned way, it's going to help your ideas land better, and then you are going to be a truly convicted speaker. There's a lot of things that get in the way of people's ability to speak with conviction, and identity, self-belief is one of them. When we don't believe that we are these things and when we are constantly seeking validation, then that changes our energy. It makes us show up needy, and it's repulsive to somebody who is operating at a higher frequency, or really it's repulsive to essentially anyone. And the only things that you're going to be attracting in are the are those who are at the same frequency as you are, which is operating then at a frequency of scarcity and of lack, etc. So if you want to speak with more conviction, then very simply put, you've got to be more convicted. You've got to believe that you are the person for this job, for this role, who is supposed to be making this opportunity known. And when you can train the coordination of your voice, breath management, and matching of vowels, essentially making your voice sound like everything comes from the same font class, as I like to teach it, eliminating poor vocal habits and getting comfortable with pauses and articulating your point, right? Because I mentioned one of the skills is articulation. There's a figurative articulation as well, which is what allows for you to distill your point to its very essence and then share that in the most relevant way possible. In this case, this might be, how is this going to drive business outcomes or help you achieve a major initiative? And then knowing how to listen ultimately is one of these great skills, because when you are able to listen, really, that means that you have shelved your ego because you don't have anything to prove. And that is a person who has deep conviction. So, conviction ultimately is not something that is performative. Conviction is a state of being and is an indicator of alignment. So if this is helpful for you, drop me a note below, let me know, get in touch with me. If you would like some help speaking at the frequency of truth and having real, true conviction when you speak in the ways that we've just talked about and more, find me on all social media platforms, but most preferably at michaelhewitt.com. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. Have a great rest of your day. Go forth and speak boldly.